What's up, everybody? I don't know if you can tell, but I got a new webcam, and it's pretty nice. The mic is not this anymore. The mic is the from the webcam as well. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some higher quality streams and videos. Let me know how it is to your liking, and I'll try my best to make I don't know something work for you. I don't know. I'm not good at this stuff, so I'm trying. Well, today the now that we got that aside, the topic of the day is deciding. Okay, so what I mean by this is many times we have something called decision paralysis, where we're met with the simple choice and we just can't make a decision, right? And this is one example of how we can't commit. But how it really manifests in real life is many different ways other than decision paralysis. For decision paralysis, it's like you're at the restaurant, but should you get cheeseburgers or should you get a, wrap? I don't know. I can't pick. That's one way of doing things. But the other thing is like, ah, I want to study French and I want to prep for my interview and I have some chores to do. But which one should I do first? Regardless of what I do, it feels like the suboptimal choice. So I keep going back and forth between different things and I can't really get anything done. So, other thing is, this can be surprisingly about boundaries as well. So, I, decided that, you know what, I'm not gonna take these like random meetings from people anymore. Suppose I'm at work and then there's this one person who keeps requesting a meeting and then changes the time and then declines and then, they keep expecting me to show up. And I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna decide that regardless of what this person says, I'm just not gonna accept this person's invite. So that's a decision you can make, right? But we keep falling back on our decisions like, but what if something is urgent? Or like, but what if I do have the time? And so we can't stick to a decision. And that's more of the, problem as it manifests into our real life. So how do we improve our ability to decide on something and follow through with it? And how can we generalize that, right? Because I just described three different scenarios. For you to develop three separate skills for each one, it's kind of a lot, right? So what if you have more situations? Does that mean you need to develop more specific skills? Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's nice to work on a generalized approach to life, making decisions and being responsible for them. So, the thing is, when we make a decision, right? Simply put, there's no other way but to commit and follow through in order for us to develop that muscle of staying true to our decision. But oftentimes, we cannot do this in the first place because things keep happening that make us reevaluate whether we made the right decision or not. And so, suppose I decided today I'm gonna do vacuuming. I have to do my chores. And as I am vacuuming the house, number one, I might feel like, I'm kind of sick and tired of vacuuming. There's like 10 more, areas to do. Number two, I may want to be doing other things, like I got a phone call or I remembered that I have to make this phone call. Number three, um, there may be other reasons why I can't, specifically do vacuuming right now because that furniture needs to be moved, but I can't do it right now because I don't have the manpower to do so. So what I'm saying is, regardless of what decision you make, if you're a person who is weak on the following through department, you're gonna meet a lot of resistance. So it's less about you can't make a decision, it's more about you don't really want to face the resistance because that is what is making you uncomfortable. So, I need to tell you a very seemingly unrelated violent story. When I was growing up in Korea, it was common for teachers to hit students. And the thing is, if you know how a teacher hits you, it becomes kind of predictable. So you can kind of relax, right? So the first day of class is always the most kind of stressful for students because you don't know how hard this teacher hits. And you don't know where this teacher likes to hit, right? Because teachers have their favorite parts. It's very sadistic, but this is the world that I grew up in, right? So, even though this teacher is violently going to beat me in places that hurt a lot, just knowing what to expect really softens the blow. The worst is when you don't know, right? So, why I gave you this really violent aside is this. What you need to be developing is this ability to see what comes up and how you feel as a result. As you do things, especially things you don't want to do, you're going to meet a tremendous amount of resistance. But instead of giving into it, you need the ability to study it. You need to be able to look at it from an objective perspective, detached from the emotion, and you want to study. Oh, I see that I feel really tensed up. I see that it stresses me. Now I'm like sweating. I see that it gives me this like physical sensation. I see that it reminds me of a lot of things. And like, oh, maybe this is related to that one time where that happened. And by doing this kind of a self-observation, self-study, you learn a lot about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself, the more you are able to predict what will happen in the next occurrence of this resistance. And guess what? The more of these you do, the more easily you will be able to move through the resistance. And this is how you stick to a decision. This is how you follow through to a decision. Because if you think about it, if I decided to vacuum, all I need to do is vacuum. It's not that hard. What's hard is overcoming my resistance to it. And this is how you develop that specific muscle. But guess what? You develop these with real life commitments, right? But that means your test drive is the actual drive. And that can be very stressful for some people. So, the thing to do, in my recommendation, is this. You set aside a certain block of your time to intentionally decide on things and follow through on them. And that is what I call Buddhist practices. And I have a great guide about specifically what to do for Buddhist practices to develop your self-observation and your commitment to yourself. So check that out in the description below.